Grace Calpus, welcome to the Star Coach Show.
Yay, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Meg.
I am so excited. I'm excited for all of you because Grace has this incredible energy that you're going to feel right through your headset or your eyes if you're watching us on YouTube. And that's a big part of why I wanted to have her on the show today. When you settle in and listen to the show, what you're going to get today is an explorer. We're going to meet you where you're at. We get that there is huge turmoil in the around the globe. There is a lot of resistance or rough waters that we might be navigating right now, just in general as human beings. So how do we show up for that as coaches? What do we tap into within? Grace is the perfect person to talk to about that. I'm going to tell you exactly why right now. So I get to meet incredible people. I feel very blessed. I get to meet incredible people all the time. And was recently, very recently at a conference where I was hanging with some of the other sponsors at the conference, and Grace was one of those sponsors. She was also a speaker at the conference, and I just was drawn to her. Like, do you ever magnetically just get pulled towards somebody? And the concept of intuitive coaching and things that I practice myself and think about, but when I meet with a sort of a fellow pioneer on the road where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need you to be in front of my audience. And so Grace was kind enough to immediately say, well, sure. And we sat down and we talked about, well, what do we want to share? And we both were just kind of compelled to acknowledge what's in front of us and then talk about how do we as coaches deal with that. Now, Grace is a PCC certified coach. She is the lead coach or the owner of Third Eye Coach Development. But being a coach supervisor and somebody who is as passionate about the field of coaching and helping coaches thrive as I am is just like, ah, always like we could start singing together. Um, Grace's experience goes beyond traditional coaching, and I know everybody who's listening kind of walks their own walk, has come to coaching through their own path. And that's how come I love, as the host of the show, to bring different perspectives, different dimensions forward. And, you know, Grace's path has walked through being a cranial sacral therapist. I have a sister who does that work as well. So it was another connection. She's an energy worker, and just so many things that we're going to explore today, because if we're not whole beings, what are we? And I think sometimes we either shut down some of the other downloads or information that comes to us, or we're just not sure what to do with it. And so Grace and I are going to talk about that. Now, as always, I just want to thank you for being here listening. And whether you are listening to us on one of the many platforms that the Star Coach Show is on, or watching us on YouTube, we're delighted to have you here. And I just ask you, take a minute. If you like incredible guests like Grace, if you are excited about what coaching can do in this world we're in, be sure to take a moment to subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're watching us, drop a comment below this, because Grace would love to know how this conversation lands on you, as would I. So without further ado, let's get back to Grace. We've heard enough from Meg. And Grace, in this concept of, I'm going to kind of have an interesting twist to this, because what I say to all my guests when we're doing our exploratory session is, what lights you up? What do you believe the world needs to hear now that you want to share that message? And you immediately said, you know what? How we as coaches are dealing with this tumultuous time. So what is it that bubbled that up for you right out of the gate?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a profound and important question. um, you know, For me, having spending so much time working with intuition, and particularly my own, of course, intuition, and really getting present to the energy of what is going on. So much going on, right? So much going on. Yeah. There's something coming in. So we think about all the things going on. Oh, the political, oh, the war, oh, the things, and maybe forget or don't know that all of this chaos is actually making space for something to come in, something new to come in. Yeah. And as coaches, we get the opportunity to sort of, and light workers, I will say also, coaches are light workers in my mind. So all light workers as well are bringing in an incredibly powerful, high frequency energy that in a nutshell is love. And we're making room for that to be more a part of humanity. And to do that, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And we have all this stuff that's always been there out in the light now. And so, in a way, we're all seeing it, and in a way, that is a disinfectant. And we're starting to figure out where we actually want to be as a human race. And as light workers, in my mind, it's our job and responsibility to hold that frequency for everyone on the planet to step into.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so powerful, Grace. It's interesting. As you said that, I just had this flash of when I was a therapist for many, many years, I would say to my clients, we've got to inventory what's all locked up in your closet, what you have under lock and key in the dark. Like, let's just pretend it's not there, la 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 la, and just ignore it. And what ends up happening is that it's incredibly powerful because it's in there, but we're ignoring it. And so it bubbles up and it pops and it does its little dance when we're least paying attention or under the radar. So if we throw the doors open and get some light in there, and I love that, the disinfectant, let's look, let's see what's in there. And then we can really deal with what's in there versus trying to dance around it or pretend that it's not there. So I've never, and I'm being full honest, like unfiltered here. I've never looked at what all the turmoil is that's going on right now the same way okay, it's been there anyway. Now it's bubbled to the surface. So what are we going to do with it? Let's put the light on it. Let's put the love on it. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I bet you all do too. So so that's a great like big vision. Let's get a little more like
Mm.
digging into, so what does that mean for us and what's some advice about what we can really do?
Yeah, this is such a great question. So, an example here, I just finished a facilitation with um, selected individuals from a federal department. And my role, it's a leadership program. And my role is to facilitate different discussions over the course of 6 months. So I was just facilitating that. Now, the company or organization that hired me, of course, is nonpartisan. And the employees, of course, have to be nonpartisan. And we're in a leadership development program, which begs so many questions right now for the federal government. And as this is going on, these departments are getting slashed. And these people are at risk for losing their job if they haven't already. Or if they're not losing their job, they're taking on so much more than they ever would before. And essentially, not only are their livelihoods being threatened, but what they do for the world is being threatened. And to facilitate these dialogues about leadership without addressing that is just a mistake.
It's sort of like trying to do something dancing around the
Yeah,
elephant,
you're
right?
dancing around it. No one's getting it because we're not dealing with what's there. Yeah. And so some of what I think we have to do is take the risk to talk about what's there, like you said, in the closet, and for me, an example today was, okay, we're talking a little bit about what's going on and that there's going to be a reduction in workforce again and all these things. And for me, it was just taking a moment and acknowledging the impact that every single one of those people in the room is having globally. This was a customer service content today. And so we were looking at, who are all your customers? Who do you impact? And they did an exercise and they're like, it goes on infinitum. We impact everyone. And they had all these aha moments about how what they do is so important. At the same time, they're at this risk and we're losing so much of what matters. And so to acknowledge it, to be with them in that moment, to acknowledge when they are there at their work, that they are making those impacts, and to stay present to that is something that is really important to do. So something even just that simple, bringing in appreciation, love, and care in an environment that is not that, is bringing in that frequency. It's our responsibility to bring that in. And so my tip is that when you're in a situation and you feel something come through that's really powerful, meaning all of a sudden you get the chills and like, ooh, something's coming through, or this client starts crying about something, right? And they're hurting or whatever it is. Pay attention to what your intuition is telling you, what is coming through you, and what is it trying to say? What does it want to say for that client? How does it want to support that client? Become a vessel for something bigger to come into the world, and allow that to be individually, provided to people. Follow it, follow it, follow it. Take the risk and say what you think needs to be said.
Wow. So powerful and so needed. Also, I think sometimes there's confusion about, when do I let what's coming through me come out versus sort of finding the balance of when to let that out, like when to kind of, um, let's say we're in an individual session with a client and they're sharing and we get an intuitive um, read or hit or whatever, however you all want to kind of indicate how you get. I usually get downloads, I feel like.
Yeah.
And how do you, as an intuitive coach, determine when the right time is to share that versus, you know, also allowing the client to kind of step in the space and explore?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And there's not like a simple answer, right? Because it's so
It's not, I'm not
individual.
going to ask you a simple
Oh,
question,
of course
Grace.
not. So I can't go through like the gamut of possibilities, right?
Right,
But
right.
I think on principle, we want to be um being aware of where the client is. What are they dealing with in that moment? What kind of contract do you have? Meaning, what are you there for? Are you there for leadership or life coaching, or what is the contract? And then setting it up. So for example, something comes through and the client, you're not sure, like, oof, I got this intuitive hit, but I feel like I could take the risk that this is true, but I don't know how to communicate it to this particular client in a way that they'll actually hear it and have it be useful. Then I usually create a context. So I will say, like, if it's a client I've never said anything to about intuition, like I've like, oh, they're professional business client or whatever. I might say something like, you know, when you were talking just then, I had this interesting feeling, and sometimes I'm a bit intuitive. Sometimes things can just like happen and I don't really know what is happening, but I always find that if I share it, the client knows what it is, and that it can be the difference between seeing something and not seeing something. And something came up for me when you were saying whatever you were saying. So would it be okay if I just shared what came up for me? And if it doesn't resonate with you, it's totally fine. Like, I'm fine however it lands for you. But I want to hear, like, what does it bring up for you, if anything? And I will tell you, a lot of coaches are afraid of using more woo-woo language, especially with professional clients. And I was at first too, but when I started just test it out, everyone accepted it. Everyone accepted it. I haven't had anyone who's like, no, that's a little too woo-woo for me. Like everyone's been, yeah, tell me what came up for you, and it's always been an addition to our
Mhm.
conversation. So I think if you
Love
create
that.
context, you can get it out there.
See, I knew there was no problem asking you a difficult question because you were just going to go with it. You were just going to go with the flow.
Yeah.
So, when you have been, you shared an example of the leadership development that you're doing with a federal program,
Yeah.
and even before sort of the tumultuousness of the time came up. What is your experience walking this path as a coach and a light healer? Sort of told you about the importance of what coaching in general sort of brings to the table. What I guess I'm asking you, Grace, is what do you believe to be true about who we are as coaches and what's our role in this world of ours? Another huge question that I'm just curious where you would take it.
Oh, there are so many things in there, Meg. Um, just briefly, my own personal journey was that I spent a lot of years doing energy work and cranial psychotherapy. And I spent 4 years in formal intuitive training. And so I would go to expos and just like read people every 10 minutes. So I really got to refine what is my intuition? What does it feel, look, sound like when my intuition kicks in versus my own blah, blah, blah in my head, or my own emotions or my own projection. I was able to kind of hone that in. But you know what? Even though I went to a coaching program that actually brought in a lot about intuition, I just like threw it out the window. I threw it out because I really felt like, oh no, this is a professional thing. Like we don't bring woo woo in, we don't freak out our clients. We don't, this is inappropriate. And if we're using intuition, we're doing it in the background and nobody gets to like really know what we're up to, what we're doing. And then I did my coach supervisor training, and there was so much of a huge spiritual context to that training
Mhm.
and how we hold space for our coach clients and the power and importance of that. All of a sudden, I was like, what? Why did I throw that out? That's another concern that coaches have too, is like bringing in this thing, right? So I was like, screw it. I'll spend a year like just I'll read my client. I'll read them before I see them. I'll write a bunch of stuff down and see if we like something happens with. I just tested out a bunch of stuff. And really what I found was that clients don't mind if you create the proper context, you sharing in that way. The clients who love it eat it up like crazy and they open up in a whole nother way. Um, and I don't know, it made me feel more authentic in my own coaching. It made me feel more grounded. It made me feel like accepted for my own coaching, how would you say, style?
Mhm.
Yeah, all of those things. So my journey was really long and convoluted, to just accept being able to bring reading someone's energy into a coaching session. And so that's why with the 4 years of intuitive training that I had, I know how to look at a person's energy based on a question and see a block or something. And that informs my coaching question. And I don't have to like tell them, I can do it in the background. And it's just like,
Okay,
give me a
good.
second to think about it. And I'm just really looking to see what's the block. And then I'll ask a question
Mhm.
from that. And it usually goes deep quickly. So it's a good shortcut to getting to the who.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if that answered your
Love that.
question. There were so many
I
questions in there.
love where you went with it, because where you went with it, and that's my whole thing. I never have a destination. I'm just like, I'm going to throw some things out and see what bubbles up for you.
Yeah.
But with that, one of the things that you said that I see a pattern with coaches is not every coach, but sometimes our tendency to cover up our differentiator or the thing that makes us special because other people don't do that. So that's surely like
Oh.
my professional clients aren't going to like that, or I need to be more like X, Y, and Z. And I resonated with that when I left therapy and went into coaching, 20 plus years as a therapist, tons of training and experience. And I thought, my coaching clients don't want to work with somebody who's been a therapist. I need to just emphasize my executive coaching training. Like, let me just rework who I am and be somebody else completely, and was completely leaving my genius work in the dust, or leaving what made me unique and my talent forward. And so when you said that, I was like, oh, Grace, I've been there, done that.
Oh
And
God,
and
yes,
what
me
do we
too.
do? We realize, like, oh, that's not the smartest thing, or that doesn't serve me or serve the people that I work with.
Yeah. I know. And I mean, it's one thing to be there for a little while because we're trying to get our feet under us. Are we practicing competencies, and, are we doing it right, so to speak, right? Which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there needs to be a period of time where we're integrating what we consider to be professional standards. And then once we've kind of integrated that in a way that's workable and we're comfortable with, we can start to kind of mess around the edges. And it kind of got to that point for me where I was like, oh, now I can start to play with this a bit more and see what can come up. So yeah, I think it's a normal process that coaches go through. The question is,
Right.
are you allowing yourself to move out of that phase by identifying and bringing in what is your unique gift and being true to that? Yeah.
Love that. So we've approached the angle of the tumultuous sort of environment, or the fact that the world has ups and downs, and we've approached that sort of from the place of clients dealing with it. But the other thing you do is help develop coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you seen the coaches that you try to help thrive and show up for their clients? What are some of the struggles that they might be having in the face of change and tension? And how do you help them?
Yeah. So there's this interesting phenomenon that happens when you really tune into the present moment. And that is that we, at least momentarily, if not longer, we begin to resonate with that present moment and feel it really. The present moment is actually a space. If anyone does transcendental meditation, if you do that for, I don't know how long, a year or more, you get this, sit down and do your meditation, you get this moment where um, everything just quiets down, and it literally feels like I'm like peeling into this other space of the now moment, and everything, it's such a rich space. There's so much in the moment if we can fully be in it. And so I think in training coaches, it's not, in my training is not so much like, oh, how do we be present with our clients, or how do we be present with ourselves, but more, how do we listen? One of the activities that I do is have people just go outside and listen to one thing. Like maybe it's the birds, like you can hear the birds, and then find something else to hear. Maybe it's the wind, maybe it's a tree creaking. Like keep picking one thing to listen to and notice how you listen to the one thing and then everything else goes away. You listen to another thing and then the thing you were listening to goes away and you can only hear that thing. And then start to hold all of it, hear all of it happening at the same time, and then expand one layer out more and listen. And in that, if we can give the mind something to do, then our being will just automatically come into that moment. So our mind's job is to listen. And as a coach, our job is to listen. So convenient, that works out.
So convenient that that's an alignment.
Yeah, yeah.
We open today with the concept that the chaos or the disruption is creating space for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the light and the energy and the love, but I just can't let go of that. That just keeps coming back to me.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we can dive a little bit more into the possibility
Mm, yeah.
and what that opens up for you.
The possibility of where we might go
Or
in
yeah,
terms of,
what that is creating space for. I mean,
yeah.
any
Okay.
whatever sort of comes up for you.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's going to be a time where enough people on the planet are going to be sick of the garbage that we're being fed constantly. And at the same time, enough people who are bringing in a high frequency to, they talk about the 100th monkey, like, you hit that threshold and the whole thing falls, like all the dominoes go, right? And so for decades and decades, light workers have been setting up the dominoes like one by one, slowly, one by one, to make this beautiful picture for the world. And I really believe that we're just coming up upon that tipping point, and that our job as light workers is to help bring that in. What that might look like could be anything, but the first thing would be a world where we just stop fighting with each other. Just stop, just cooperate. That's all it would take to make a huge difference. Let's just cooperate. So I see that possibility of cooperation, of peace. I think there will be inventions that come in that allow us to have free energy. Science, I think, is getting really close to 0 point energy, so that we basically can create our energy in our own home and we don't have to plug into a grid anymore. We don't have to rely on oil and gas anymore. And lots of inventions for cleaning up the mess that we've made. So those are some of the things that I visualize
Mhm.
when I think about what's possible and what I want to be a part of, what I want to bring in. And we know as coaches how powerful visualization is.
Right.
Yeah.
So and maybe it becomes visualizing the desired outcomes rather than wrapping around the axle about
Mm-hmm.
what is,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
because I'll be completely honest, when you first said, well, let's cooperate, I think, but with who? I mean, like there are certain things that I'm not willing to cooperate with because I believe that it's to the detriment. So it's
Right.
really
Right. Yeah.
difficult to try to kind of navigate. And then you have other people who believe the exact opposite of me. So,
Uh-huh.
um, but I love the idea of where's the light?
Yeah. Where's the light?
That where's the thing that we can get behind and tip the scales?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even though it may seem polar opposite in some ways,
Hmm.
it's just because we haven't pulled back far enough to see the commonality and work together at that level. And the light being shown, I believe, on all of this just power struggle stuff. That's what I mean by the 100th monkey, is that that's going to go away. Like we're finally going to have pushed far enough that we're in a world where power is not the goal. So I know that may sound crazy to people given what we're experiencing right now and we've experienced for what seems like millennia, but
Yeah.
I really do think it's possible. And if it's not in my lifetime, that's fine, but that's not going to stop me from visualizing what's possible, because that's what makes me feel like I'm contributing in my purpose. Um, I don't know, you have to have reason to do what you do in a way that makes sense for you and allows you to be fully expressed in your authenticity. So that's, I don't know, Meg. I don't know if I'm answering
I,
your questions because there's always
I
so
think
much in
you
there.
are, because
Yeah.
everything you answer brings up something new for me, which
Okay.
is let's perhaps give some ideas to those people listening who are kind of like, whoa, this is deep, and yet something that, I want desperately to be true, or I want to pull
Mhm.
toward. What are some ideas? I even go to like developing a coaching mindset that we've got,
Yeah.
we develop reflective practices that allow us to expand and grow in particular ways. So What, if any, ideas, tips, strategies might you have for people to develop this? Well, I'm actually looking at your, developing their third eye or developing the very the inner wisdom that might be covered up because of all the turmoil and chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the simplest tip is go outside and be still. And listen to all the things, hold all the things, as I was saying earlier. And then in that practice, once they've kind of held all the things and expanded one more out, then touch your heart and ask, what is it that I need to know right now? And I guarantee you something's going to pop right in, and trust that. Because what you've done, something's coming in right now. I'm like, holy crap. Because what you've done in that space by calming down, by listening, by expanding, is you've raised your frequency. And when your frequency is higher, you can hear your higher self way, way easier. And so if we can practice that in some sort of regular basis, you'll be surprised at how different your coaching sessions will go if you start to hold your coach client in that space and listen to what they're saying, listen to how they're emoting or not, listen to their body language, listen to the energetic field in the room, listen to the cultural influences, hold all the things without choosing one, and just see what arises within you as the next question to ask.
I got to tell you that when your download or your input came in, I actually felt a flood of energy over me. So it was really powerful. And it just, it, it was a gift. So I don't know that you meant to share that over here, but I got it. So thank
Oh, you
you.
did. Oh, that's great. Yes, yes. You know, it's so
Would
interesting.
love for
I'm gonna
people to
mute.
know more about the if people want to know more about kind of the work you do, there's different ways that you work with coaches. What are those different ways that you do that?
I yelled at her. Hopefully she stopped. um, what are some different ways I work with people? Okay, so I have developed a 6-month program to help coaches integrate their intuition into their coaching process. And there's some important aspects of that. How do we do that? One, we have to understand how intuition works, and we need to understand how to communicate it, and we need to understand how does our intuition come in, and how do we differentiate that from blah, all the other stuff, right? So those are the 3 things that I teach. Yeah.
So good.